So I guess, Mike mentioned the Flames making some additions, and, obviously they're going to do some more at the trade deadline. One guy that they haven't really added because he was already on their reserve list, but that a young player that has a lot of Flames fans pretty excited, who somehow we were talking in another venue, Mike and Mike sort of floated out the idea of who are the Flames' top 5 prospects. And I think, your top 4, probably some combination of Dustin Wolf, Jacob Pelche, Connor Zary, and Matt Coronado. But who's your 5th? One guy is making a case for being their 5th best prospect is Rory Kerins. And if you don't know who Rory Kerins is, one, he was a 6th round pick in 2020. So he got drafted and then had his entire OHL season wiped out. So he spent all of last year hanging out with Mike in the AHL. And he played, he spent 2 months practicing with the Heat and played in 4 games. And by that, I mean, Rory did, not Mike. Mike didn't play at all. But I mean, the Flames have been very good under this regime of finding value late in the draft. And a great example of that is Rory Kerins, because he's just good. He's good at everything. He's coming into today, I think second in the OHL in scoring, and that earned him an entry-level contract. I mean, for a guy who was, he was a good player in his draft year, but he's small. I mean, OHL small, not small. I mean, I think he's listed at 5. He was listed 5'10" in his draft year. I think the Flames list him at 6 foot now. He might be 6 foot with his skates on, but I mean, don't matter. They don't. What's the old saying? They don't put pictures next to the box score, and they don't really. When you score 33 goals in the OHL and 84 points with a good amount of season left, they don't really say, yeah, I mean, he might be second in scoring, but he's not that big, so don't be too excited. I mean, he's a guy who's, I think, earned his shot at the next level, and I'm kind of curious what he's going to bring, because he's in terms of pure skill, he's probably top 3 or 4 in the organization right now, at least outside of the NHL.
Yeah, the Flames have been really good at this. Like the last few years, for specifics, like even Jack Beck, really good pick, like up with the Ottawa 67s. I mean, can't say enough about that. And then Ryan Francis is having a bit of a down year with St. John, but still looks to be a really high upside player. And Rory Kerins, there's a lot there. He played in those 4 AHL games last year, as you mentioned, and didn't play a whole lot in them. He was on their 4th line in them, but when you get a guy in the O who produces at that level, no matter the age, it's really impressive. And the fact that he grew up a Flames fan's fun too. Makes you feel old when a kid gets drafted to the Flames and he wore Sean Monahan's jersey growing up as a fan, which is hilarious. But yeah, no, it's good. The Flames are drafting relatively well under Brad Treliving's tenure as GM, which is good. It doesn't really seem to matter what position it is. They're able to find good bets, even with the goalie that they took out of the USHL last year, Arseny Sergayev. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really encouraging. And with Kerins, I mean, we're going to see him in Stockton next year for sure. Hopefully he has a long, I'm not sure if it's going to be like, if the Heat go on a long run this year, we're not going to see him, but next year it's going to be interesting.
They're hoping that Sue's going to go on a long run in the O.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
The junior playoffs are probably the most unpredictable thing in the world. I mean, there's plenty of great teams, powerhouse teams in junior that just fall flat in their face. But I mean, he's real good. Yeah. And Sue has a pretty good team, not a great team, but I don't think there's a lot of great teams in the O this year. And so it's anyone's game.
Well, the other interesting thing for me is Stockton's centers next year, because there's a lot of volatility around that. There's a lot of there's a lot of question marks surrounding who Stockton's going to have basically at every forward position, because they got a lot of Group 6 UFAs this year. With guys like Glenn Godden and Luke Philp and Justin Kirkland. And I think Byron Frase's contract might be up too.
He's 30, so he's a pure UFA.
Yeah, well, don't quote me on that. I think he was on a 2-year contract, and I think this is the last year of it.
You are correct.
Yeah,
you are correct.
Yeah, and so Stockton's going to have a lot of holes, a lot of holes to fill. And I don't even know if Jacob Pelche is going to be there next year, and maybe even not Matthew Phillips. We'll see. So it's going to be, there'll probably be a lot of different opportunities for guys. Connor Zary will get bumped up for sure. We'll see him in the top 6 most of the time, I think, next year. One of Pellichan Phillips will probably still be there. And so there's one of your wingers on your top line. The rest of the top 6 is basically anybody's guess. I mean,
Ryan Francis, maybe.
Ryan Francis, maybe.
I'm a big USHL guy. I've been following Ilya Nikolaev. I don't know if he's NHL contract worthy because he's 20 and he's sort of the Yuri Hudler of his team in the USHL. He's not a driver, but he always gets a ton of points.
Yeah.
You bring him in an AHL deal and see if he can do it.
An AHL deal makes sense there because the Flames, like I said, the Heat are going to be such a young team next year. Such a young team. And so, they're going to sign probably a couple of AHL veterans to cheap deals, guys like your Alan Quines and your Byron Phrases. But in terms of where Rory Kerins slots in for next year's team, I mean, it's tough to say, but, maybe they keep Luke Philp and they put Kerins on his wing or something. I mean, I don't know if they start Kerins at center. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. He's not going to stay in the same spot the entire season.
There's going to be a lot of moving. And I think the fascinating thing from a Heat perspective is there's so many moving parts at the NHL level. I mean, we talked about Tyler Toffoli being the guy who's good enough to really mess up your life in June, July, when you have to worry about the cap implications. The Flames got 4 guys. We've talked about them once or twice that they need to re-sign. And honestly, if you look at down the roster, maybe you think about re-signing Goodbranson because he's so good at so many things that they tend to have trouble finding guys to be good at. I mean, do you want to be paying $2 million for that? I don't know. It's not my money. It's not my problem. But at the same point, the Flames are going to have so many decisions to make that I have no idea. If you ask me, where's Matthew Phillips playing next year? I don't know. I think it's equally likely that he's a full-time Calgary Flame as it is that he gets punted out of the organization at the draft for a pick. Because, he's a guy that has done everything he can at the AHL. Maybe it's time to give him a chance at the NHL somewhere. Is somewhere Calgary? I don't think they know yet because I think they need to figure out what their cap situation looks like. And if you're going to be, let's just put this out there. If you're paying Johnny Gaudreau $9.5 million and Matthew Tkachuk $9.75 or thereabouts, you're going to need some guys making league min, right? The reason why Dan Vladar is such a great thing for the Flames is he's pretty good, but he's also dirt cheap. There are few, if any, players in the NHL. There's a couple of players I think who have somehow $725K cap hits because they got signed when the cap was lower or when the league minimum was lower, and then they sort of got grandfathered in. Yeah, Brian Fraser is one of them. But if you're the Flames, I mean, the fact that you're getting regular wins from a guy making league minimum is criminal. The fact that they're getting let's put it out there, they're getting almost Norris caliber defending out of a guy their second pairing, Oliver Shillington, making $750K, who just accepted his qualifying offer and said sure, whatever, and then came in and just now he's if you look at the underlines, if you look at the WAR, the GAR, the SPAR, the whatever fancy acronyms you want to look at, he's just real good. And some of that's Chris Tanev, who I think is criminally underrated too. But they're not going to be able to have so many guys making good money without having some guys making next to no money. And the next to no money part, I think, is the part that's going to be fascinating because we saw 2 years ago when Brad Treliving went bargain bin shopping, and a lot of them didn't work out because for less than $1 million, less than $900,000, less than $800,000, you're not going to get really good players. You're going to get guys with some holes that you have to gamble with, or guys who are looking for bounce backs, or guys who are in show me years that no one really wants them to show them on their team. So, I mean, who knows? It's going to be fascinating because I think, Shane, you and I talked about this previous episodes. Between now and let's say August is going to be probably the most fascinating 6 months in the franchise's probably last 20, 25 years because
we said between when the season ends and when the draft is kind of it's going to be very curious to see what goes on.
There's going to be so many dominoes.
That is a tremendous, not tremendous, but his tendency to do moves at the draft is quite high. He tends to do business at the draft always, seemingly every year. And
Because it's so easy
Why
to
would
do
it
business at the draft, man. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone's
you can
there.
move down 4 picks and get a 3rd round pick and draft
Part of
Jeremy Poirier. Like he's
I,
coming
I've
too, by the way.
I've had the good fortune of covering 2 drafts in person, and people in the media risers. So I don't know if you anyone who hasn't seen a live draft. So basically, you're set up in a hockey rink, and it's like an oval. And then at one end you have the one goal end, you have the podium and the stage, and then at the other end you have the media risers where all of us goons are sort of sitting at tables with their laptops with their binoculars out. And why do we have binoculars? Because what's in front of us is 32 tables representing each of the league's 32 teams, and there are GMs, there are AGMs, there are scouts, there are the owner's nephew, because it's always the owner's nephew who's the little kid in the hat with the jersey running around. But you have everyone sitting around, and they have a phone, and then the GM gets up. I mean, the year the year that they made the Flames made in Chicago the Hamonic trade, people are like, wait, what the hell where's Tree? Is he talking across snow? Like you got hints of it, but you need your binoculars out. So the reason why everyone does business at the draft is because it's like summer camp. Everybody's there. It's summer. It's nice out. Usually you're in a fun city. You get away from the wife and kids. You get to hang out with your buddies. You get to make trades. You get to draft new kids. It's real fun. And I can understand, like, the media folks get jacked about the draft because the draft is fun. And it's like that for hockey ops people too. So why does Brad love the draft? Because the draft is awesome to make trades at, and also to pick players in the 6th round that end up playing for your team.
Just before we move off Kerins, I do want to say that he's gonna be. It's not like he's gonna immediately go right to the show or anything like that. Like we've seen with Pelche, the Flames want to develop their players. They want them to find success at the lower level before coming up. So he's going to have plenty of opportunity, and he's going to, as long as he works his butt off, he's going to learn how to play on the defensive side of the puck and learn how to play a Daryl Sutter checking style. And, as long as he's got those tools, he's got a great transition game to get through the neutral zone, which helps. So he's going to be given the tools, and he's going to give him the time to develop into something that he could be. So I'm excited about this new look Flames development path, and not rushing people like they did with Sam Bennett or Dylan Dubé, things like that. It'll allow them to be better in the long run. So I'm excited someone like Kerins' talent is going to be taken care of with this new regime.
Now, while we are in the stock and eat, Mike, the Flames just got another AHL goaltender, a guy you love because he wears the number 3. People were freaking out on Twitter because the Flames traded nothing, literally nothing, absolutely nothing, not a pick, not a prospect, not a bag of pucks, absolutely dirt worse nothing, to the Montreal Canadiens for, I believe, Laval Rocket 3rd string goalie right now. Now he's the Heat's 3rd string goalie, Michael Mcniven. Mike, what do you make of Mr. Mcniven?
I mean, I've seen all sorts of baffling prognostications about this trade, suggesting that the Flames are moving on from Dustin Wolf, or the Flames are moving on from Dan Vladar, or the Flames are moving on from Danil Chechelev. And it's just like, no, no, this is a move that is intended to address the goaltending position in a franchise where its 2 top teams are gearing up for potentially long playoff runs. And, you have a guy in Mcniven who is a mop-up guy, who can come in and if the goalie gets hurt, I suppose. And I would say the most notable thing probably about Michael Mcniven is his jersey number, which is extremely unusual for a goaltender.
He won't be able to wear that in Stockton unless he has a talk with Connor Mackey or no, Greg Morrow is 3.
It's Greg Morrow. It's Greg Morrow.
Oh man, Greg Morrow keeps getting jobbed out. I mean, Greg Morrow, he's back in Kansas City now. I bet you he's fuming knowing his jersey number is going to go to Michael Mcniven.
Yeah, maybe Mcniven will take no, he can't take 2 because Mackey has 2. Gravel has 4. Poolman has 5. Valimaki is 6. DeSimone is 7.
Who has number 1?
Nobody. Tyler Parsons had number 1. So there you go.
So I guess hopefully Michael Mcniven takes number 1, because that way he won't stir any locker room fights by jostling up anyone's numbers.
Yeah. So
organizationally, league wide, like the Flames have been pretty good at keeping their goalie numbers and generally their player numbers pretty consistent from the AHL to the NHL when they can. Dustin Wolf, 432, for the Everett Silvertips. I believe, I don't know this. It's either, I keep telling myself it's a Kelly Rudy homage. I know that's not true because
Quick.
it's definitely a Jonathan Quick homage because he grew up in Tustin right around the time where the Kings were so good. It as an aside, wouldn't it, for someone who grew up in the LA area when the Kings were winning cups, it must have been fun for Dustin Wolf to come up for a couple days and get to be, I guess, coached for a morning skate and not any part of a game by Daryl Sutter. But that's But anyway,
I'm talking to Dustin tomorrow. I might ask him that.
Dustin Wolf, he wore 32 as an Everett Silvertip. He wore 32 in Stockton. He wore 32 in his one game dressing for the Flames. So thankfully, Michael Mcniven won't need to ruffle any feathers, hopefully, by taking someone's number, because numbers are sacred when they can be. Unless you're at the Olympics and everybody takes a weird number because there's too many people who want number 12.
Yeah. I'm literally adding that Dustin Wolf, LA Kings, Daryl Sutter connection to my notes for the Wolf interview tomorrow right now.
Happy we could help. Teamwork makes the dream work.
It's true.
I was like you. I sent a couple of texts being like, "What's going on?" And I was told nothing's really going on. It's just Montreal has too many goalies. And the Flames were like, "We could do a goalie for you. We don't care." And Montreal's like, "Would you please?" So yeah, they're getting a free goalie, and Adam Werner's a pending Group 6 free agent. And as far as I know, so young master Mr. Mcniven, his birthday, he turns 25 in July. Typically, the cutoff is June 30th. You have to be 25 as of June 30th. And not have played a certain number of games, and there's a whole bunch of other qualifications. And we checked. As far as I was told, the Group 6 date didn't slide. It's still Group 6 is based on your age on the 25th, or you have to be 25 or older when your contract expires on June 30th. And Mcniven is going to be 24. He isn't 25 till later. Adam Werner is going to be 25 at that point. So the fact that he's 6 months younger than Adam Werner probably gets him in at the very least he'll probably get qualified. He might it gives it's a kind of deal where Montreal gets rid of a contract of a guy that wasn't really in their plans, and the Flames get a free look at a guy they kind of like, and a guy who might replace Adam Werner or might not, or maybe they don't even qualify and they bring in someone from Europe or somewhere. Like it gives them a ton of flexibility where they don't, out of necessity, have to have poor Danil Chechelev forced to be the backup in Stockton next year. Granted, I think we're going to see Chechelev in the AHL at various points next year or two, but I mean, you don't want to rush him. He's 20. He's played less than a half a season in the NHL in North America. So you got to let him ease in. But
what happens here if Jacob Markstrom gets injured? Okay.
We canceled the parade. That's the first thing.
Cancel the parade.
Cancel the season.
Your NHL tandem immediately becomes Dustin Wolf and Adam Werner. Or sorry, Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar.
Darth, baby.
And you hope and pray that Dustin Wolf is somehow capable of being an NHL starter at this point. And then all of a sudden, what's your AHL tandem? Because
in the middle of the Calder Cup playoffs, Stockton would lose their number one goalie, and they'd have to do, it would be
Andrew
Werner
Shortridge
and Chechelev,
Werner
and Matt Greenfield.
No, it'd be Andrew Shortridge, but it would be rough. It wouldn't be ideal. It would not be your ideal goaltending situation.
To a certain extent, if we're being nice about this, it's kind of unfair to the Andrew Shortridges of the world to throw them in the deep end like that when they played all year. So
yeah, exactly. So you make this deal. It is organizational need. I honestly think we've probably talked about it more than the Flames did before they made the trade. So I think it's
because the fans demanded it with their constant Twitter questions, asking us what the hell is going on. Well, they got
to have a hidden meaning behind everything.
they got a free goalie. They got a free goalie because Montreal had too many goalies, and Montreal couldn't put him anywhere else. So they said, "Hey, Flames, do you want us free goalie?" And they said, "Sure do." My guess is, if I'm being nice about this, Kent Hughes probably looked in his phone to see who the last GM he made a trade with was, and then it's like, "Oh, why not?" And then just hit redial and called Brad up and said, "Do you want a free goalie?" And Brad, being the very stingy type, doesn't like having to give up things for things, says, "Okay."
Brad loves his depth. Like, why are we surprised at this?
Look how random goalies are too.
Oh yeah,
right. Like Jordan Binnington was
that was the literally
goaltender
the name I was
before.
thinking of.
Jordan Binnington was the fourth string goaltender the year the Blues won the cup. He started that year as their fourth. Husso was their fifth. Now look at them. Now look at them. He's got a cup. Like, you want a free goalie? Sure. Why the heck not?
Goalies are voodoo. Goalies
exactly.
are voodoo.
Who are the
Take
three
it,
guys ahead
run.
of him?